everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today's video is third. The upside of blatant fraud on full display for all to see. Right, and this is Electile Dysfunction 101. Because, even if we're playing out the scenario in which, Trump loses the recount process and the constitutional and judicial review of the fraud that's taken place, right? So there, of course, it's possible that the Biden team will succeed. I still don't. My gut feeling tells me that some of these are going to be absolutely massive upset decisions, and again, the whole balance of the thing hangs in it. They're trying as much as they can to use their last weapon, which is narrative control, and of course, narrative control and big pharma, right? And of course, the announcement about the vaccine. I'm going to save most of my comments about that for another video, potentially tomorrow. But for now, I just want to talk about kind of the positive aspects that can come out of this situation, even assuming that the fraudulent selection goes through. And that is basically that it's not just people on the right wing, it's populist left and populist right. They absolutely fear the populist left and populist right joining together in a powerful third party, right? And again, the socialists and commies, go their own way, and they've already got the Green Party anyway. But there's if the GOP fails here, if the Republican Party fails to claim its destiny and to directly assign and appoint the electors, as is their right under the U.S. Constitution, then they will have failed the American people. It will be a party that does not deserve to have respect anymore. It doesn't deserve the people who are the working class entrepreneurs and patriots and people holding up the pillars of the sky like Atlas. Those are the people who will need to find some other recourse in the event that democratic recourse is denied to them, right? If it's like Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable, right? Spoken another way. But in reality, there's other options between violence and voting, right? There's a lot of different, more radical and actions and effective actions that can be taken at a local level and at a state level. And the topic of secession and redistricting, and the thing right now, even of course they're always talking about DC and Puerto Rico, but there's little talk of the state of Jefferson and basically splitting up the state of California and potentially Oregon, with all the red counties essentially going their own way. Of course, as you know, I am an advocate of that political solution, and I think that would be a much better representation for the people of Northern California and Southern Oregon, especially given the outright tyrannical, communist totalitarian tendencies of the current governments in California as well as Oregon. And there's only so much that it can be pressed before something snaps, right? What doesn't bend will break. And right now they are assuming that people can just basically be pushed and pushed and pushed further and further, faster and faster into a global model of communism. And it's just not going to work. It works for their own little brainwashed sycophant coterie, but it does not work for the wider swath of American people. The people who are still connected to the land and connected to real work and connected to honest production and to their family and to God and to everything that is real and true and genuine in this world. Those are the people who are going to decide what happens here. Not the other side, not their media cronies, not any of these governors, not any of these, commie judges that Obama put in. It's going to go straight to the top. And we are going to see an absolute, it's going to be an enema of the entire electoral fraud system. It's going to be straight up a colonic, where all that shit's going to come out. And we're going to drain that swamp that is inside the belly of the beast, one way or another, because again, in the digital age, there's only so much fraud you can get away with before somebody catches it. And when you try and get away with it on a scale of tens of millions of fraudulent mail-in ballots, Well, it's highly visible, and a lot of people can see it. And in fact, mail-in ballots are tracked almost in some ways more than regular, cast ballots on election day. And we can see just in the data that there are extreme anomalies in the data just in the states that are in play as swing states, right? So none of it makes any sense from a natural occurrence argumentation such as the left, right? The deceptive left who don't have, even a soul or a brain left. All they want is their narrative, and they're imposed by force regardless of the, legitimate protests of the people whose freedom is being evaporated to fulfill these plans. It is not going to go. We will not go quietly into that good night. We will burn and rage at close of day. And just like Antifa, we can make some trouble for people as well. But the reason that conservatives are so reluctant to actually take action on more extreme level is because we have faith, we have hope that things can be settled on a better level, and we never actually want to go to that level because it's not ideal. It entails, profound risk of harm to ourselves. It doesn't necessarily benefit the situation even if you prevail, and why, it really should only be saved for extreme circumstances. But, these are extreme times and they demand extreme measures. And I don't even think that splitting up the state of California is that extreme. It's been talked about, by tons of people. I mean, there was even a ballot proposition to arbitrarily split it up into 3 states, right? This is one of the concocted, excuses of the actual movement, which is the state of Jefferson. It comes from the ground up, not from the top down. And the idea that D.C. or Puerto Rico would have a statehood granted to them before the state of Jefferson on the context of the evidence available, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But again, if they're going to try, not that they even took the Senate, none of these schemes will come to pass, but there's a genuine risk of that happening down the line. And again, if they're going to get one for them, then at least we get one for us. And I'm telling you, if we can create the state of Jefferson out on this West Coast, it's going to be the most glorious state in Cascadia. Almost, I think it's going to be like the community in Atlas Shrugged, of all the people just living in the mountains, the most productive and enlightened people in the world, living in paradise. That's what I see the state of Jefferson being as. And who knows, maybe I'll even run for office in the state of Jefferson, but we'll see about that. In any case, the point is that, I was just talking with my friend who is a good friend who's a Bernie Sanders person kind of still. And, he's just basically, he's like, I've pushed back more against Biden than I have against Trump. Like, Biden is insanely corrupt. And this whole thing is just, a shenanigan. And, again, the honest liberals will acknowledge that and just kind of like, not try and hide it through narrative control. But the ones who actually believe that this is a legitimate election and we need to count all votes, even the ones that are fraudulent, like that's some sort of like moral position or legitimate stance on which to claim a mandate, right? It's insane. And again, the data irregularities are off the charts, and they're primarily concentrated almost entirely in the states that are in play, the swing states, and they completely contravene all of the other data and imply a non-random data set, i.e. ballots being filtered in that were fraudulent, editing of the ballots, some data glitches in the computer system, right? This is all very well known and revealed to those who have their eyes open, of the basically, the Hammer supercomputer and a scorecard system, the ability to hack any voting machine and network and basically edit the votes in real time. We saw this playing out on CNN, on the footage. You saw basically votes flip from Biden, or from Trump to Biden in real time. Like, Trump's votes went down and Biden's went up, and they flipped by like the same amount. Like, they showed it on the TV because there was live updating from the database, and the database was being hacked in real time by these cronies and by these corrupt software systems like Dominion voting systems, right, which is basically, as I understand, connected to Diebold, right? There, even before Dominion voting systems and this whole rebrand, there were still only 2 companies that made all the voting machines in the entire country, right? ES&S and Diebold. And something like the president of ES&S and the vice president of Diebold are brothers, right? And of course, Dominion Voting Systems had investments from the Clinton Global Initiative. It has affiliation with Nancy Pelosi. Like, how the idea that wouldn't be a criminal offense to influence like the actual hardware of voting when you are clearly affiliated with one political party and one political side is just amazing. And again, if there isn't some merit to the Q timeline, and that this is at least in some fashion intended to be a big sting operation against the corruption and fraud, then we should. I hope we should see something soon. A bunch of lawsuits launched yesterday, which is good. And we'll see what comes out of that. There's still more to be filed and more appeals to be heard at the Supreme Court. But if this isn't that, then really, again, the GOP deserves to lose. And in a certain sense, Trump, even like, if he's been calling it out for so many months, why didn't he take action, right? Unless, he did, and there's some validity there. But, we're right in the thick of it, so we don't know this yet, despite all the media proclamations of a winner. And, the gloating of people in California and my family around the world who all think that the media cannot be wrong, even though they were wrong on literally everything else this election. They're wrong on pretty much everything else in general, right? They spent 4 years delegitimizing a presidency based on Russiagate conspiracy theory, and now basically it's verboten and taboo to even suggest that fraud or influence could have taken place. I mean, how stupid do these people think the American people are? I mean, obviously they think that we are complete and utter drooling, dribbling morons. And that is, I guess, for those who watch the media and still believe it, again, very true to form and true to case. And they are basically drooling idiots who think that the media still has any validity, authority, or power whatsoever in a real sense. And yet everybody's going around, the head of NATO is saying, yes, now we can all band together like the Avengers and confront Russia. And, basically the Pope even is like making, declarations and whatnot. This whole thing is so transparent. Again, what they chastised us for as a conspiracy theory for so long, just that there was basically ensconced, secret societies, groups of power of elite, people, using that term in the loose term, elite. They're in fact just, fallen beings. They are not elite. And basically that they are trying to control and centralize power in the hands of themselves in a global state, right? Is that so radical at this point? Even like literally the Pope himself is also talking about it. He just came out with some encyclical called Fratelli Tutti, all brothers all, and right, it's basically just the Pope in a completely almost secular document, just talking about how we need to dissolve the nation state, and nationalist populism is local narcissism or something like that. I mean, I think the prophecy of Malachi may be true, is that this is the last pope, because after this, the church dissolves, the entire structure dissolves. They go for broke and try to implement this, new world order by force. But at the same time, the army of Christ has already assembled, and basically, this final confrontation before we enter the new age can, conclude itself. And that is, again, as I've said, far more a spiritual battle engaged in just daily actions and habits and routines and statements than it is a battle like, Lord of the Rings style with swords and axes and nor will it be, violence is also a part of every, psychic and spiritual battle. I mean, even the wars we face, that we have seen throughout history are all basically manifestations of psychic conflict. That were initiated by the people who are in control of each side, and like in World War I, all these people who were basically formerly neighbors being sent off in these trenches to die because essentially the ruling parties in their own nations basically told them to do that. And it's, again, it illustrated on the point of Christmas Day. I think it was like 1914 or something, one of the years during World War I, and they came out during Christmas and kind of had Christmas together, and even played, soccer in the no man's land and whatnot, and just kind of showed essentially that how contrived the entire conflict was. And most of these conflicts are contrived. The truest battles we don't fight with guns and axes. We fight with actual words and courage and just a moral stance, holding the line. And because when we do hold the line for ourselves and for others, we are the foundation of a whole world on which, is built on our actions. And, whether or not that work and that production is cycled back into us and is used and distributed in a symbiotic fashion is also up to us, right? For those who decry production and capital as if it's inherently, corrupt, right? Even in a socialist country, even in your communist utopia, you would still have capital in an abstract sense. You would still have resources. You would still have the materials on which to work and with which to build. And that is capital. It's all capital. It's all energy. And if we actually become the fractal resonators of the Creator and amplify that production every single moment of every single day, it's like even when we're failing, again, it's a scientific mindset. The failure only lets you know what the truth is. And when we see so much falsity, we know what the truth is. We know that when, basically there's this absolute mania to remove Trump from power and delegitimize him, right? He is hated by all the worst people in the entire world, right? There's some of them who cozied up to him, Sheldon Adelson and whatnot, but in reality, it's all just posturing, and they have their interest aligned, and it's just like Rupert Murdoch. Like New York Post is now like congratulating Biden, like Wall Street Journal is garbage. It's all garbage. And our parents didn't have an alternative media, right? They didn't have it. And so it's like, in one sense, that explains a lot of their behavior and why they have so much complete and utter faith in the narrative that the media spins. But it's like, in a sense, we should just cut them some slack and let them just be kind of, crazy in their elder years and just ramble on about Russia, and misogyny or whatever the media is telling them on any given day, But realistically, the structures and the forms that are being built now as a result of the free communication on the internet, even when they try and strangle it with social media, it is still proceeding apace. And again, the Streisand effect, it gets even more, intense. The commitment to the alternative platforms doubles and triples every time they perform, these brazen acts of censorship. And so, we just need to recognize that even in the negative scenario, it still just gives us that much more ammo on which to delegitimize that system entirely, and redeem it in a sense. Because even after the revolution, even once we've kind of overthrown the banksters and instituted a new system, there will still need to be methods of conflict resolution. There will still be a market economy. There will still be forms of governance and control. And we have to basically take an active part in the structures that are being built for that era. Because many of the structures that have been built for this world may not survive, and many of them probably won't. And I consider that, again, to be mostly a good thing. The people who are more elderly and, have already seen a lot in this world and become, attached to the things that were, I understand why it's very distressing to them and why there's a lot of elderly people just passing from the world and then voting for Biden unanimously. But it's because there's a dimensional shift, and, Trump is, for an old guy, very hip to that and very in tune with the aspect of his process and the meme aspect of truth. And, I hope that, again, there's some aspect of the Q narrative that is correct. Of course, there's many aspects of it, but placing faith in any particular narrative, even if it's from 4chan or 8chan, is not necessarily any better than placing faith in the establishment's matrix narratives. We need to always be using our genuine senses to acquire the truth in real time. And that, again, is the retroduction, the synesthesia, right? The agnosis, that remembrance of your true identity and actual connection with that perfect subjectivity and thus objectivity, right? Or, Something like that, man. You know, we are absolutely ascending, and this new world is being created, you know, regardless of what happens in any particular moment or election or result. But that being said, again, we need to fight for every last inch and expose these people for what they are. Even if this is the grand finale of fireworks, you know, of Trump, of the bull in the China shop, and essentially just, you know, destroying the illusions that have held up the false world of the past, well then, let this be a fitting end to a glorious 4 years. And let's take down everything on the way out. As Sticks, Hex, and Hammer said, break all their toys. Pardon Assange, pardon Snowden, literally just go scorched earth and declassify everything. You know, the black budget programs, to the extent that the president can authorize these declassifications, I would say go for it. Just drop the ever-loving truth bomb on everyone, and that will be, you know, that will prove to everyone, you know, who is of any truth vibration, you know, basically, even in the defeat scenario, that, you know, he did have his heart in the right place. He was free from corruption in a big way, at least in the way that we understand it, the Jeffrey Epstein way, you know, the pizza-related enterprises. You know, and you know, we had a great chance to make things with him, and we did make things, and we will continue anyway. But if we can win this battle, and he can get 4 more, which I think, again, is still very possible, you know, we can continue building a lot of really amazing things. And when potentially we do actually retake the House in 2022, and the Senate, again, is retained, because this time was a hard battle for the red team. There were a lot of points of failure and a lot of seats available to be lost. Next time, it's not so one-sided, right? They stand to lose as much or more, you know, seats than us next time. So that's really, again, when we think of the long game and we just think of just continuing our production on a daily basis and building that energy and that vortex, then there's only, again, so much that the realm can take such an influx and not respond, and not basically be changed by that action and by that commitment, that, you know, psychic force, that etheric will. And that is really what the magician knows. That is what the master knows. That is what the saint and as well as the sorcerer knows. And again, the only question is whether or not we're using our power in alignment with the creator of the universe, or whether or not we're using it for selfish ends to serve ourselves or other material or immaterial beings, right? The point is whether or not it's in resonance or it's, you know, it's discordant. And that is something that you only know when you clear your mind, body, and soul and perform that work of purification on a, you know, spiritual level. So that's my video today. Be not afraid, you know, be not afeared, because we will prevail in any outcome. But with that attitude, I think we have a very strong chance of prevailing, you know, in the courts and in the constitutional challenges. Again, the 5 states that are in the swing, the GOP has the majority. All they need to do is appoint directly a set of electors and send them to the Congress when they're, you know, basically certified in, mid-December. And that's all it'll take. Yeah, it'll be rocky, and it'll erupt a a cry of pain from the left that will resound throughout the ages. But you know, all the more reason to do it. And if you can't get that done, if that's too much work and that's too much upsetting the system, you know, like Mitt Romney, oh, we shouldn't be making these claims, and Fox News has completely outed themselves as a commie outfit pretending to be conservative. I mean, it's just, it's glorious again. When you can just see things from a dimensional perspective, this is the mitosis of worlds. This is the splitting of those who choose to live as reavers as the rift, and those who who live within the light and resound within that field of mutual production and mutual ascendance and expansion. And so, yeah, that's my video today. Let me know what you guys think. And again, have faith that everything will be okay, because if you're still there and you're still acting, the chances are it probably will anyway. So that's my video. Take it easy, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Ah.